At this point in the games industry, you cannot avoid early access. It is here. It is here to stay. I'm sure, unless you're living underneath a rock, you've heard about Subnautica 2, as it is finally available in gamers' hands in early access. Here's my little caveat here, is that even though, yes, it's wonderful we have the game now, Subnautica 2 is playable, we are apparently a year and a half to 2 years out of this game being finished. It's kind of surprising that a game that started its development in 2021 still is this far out from release. I know it had the lawsuit issues, I know. For the record, I just think, I wonder where the extra time or planning went into this, because for all intents and purposes, Subnautica Below Zero is just a Subnautica 1 expansion. It's a case of a game developing and turning into something far worse than what was idealized and planned. It's one of the rare downsides, is that an early access game can develop into something worse. You know, change isn't inherently good. Change just means things are different, not necessarily better. Not to digress too much into this, but what killed Subnautica Below Zero personally, or just what made it a worse experience than the first Subnautica, is they kind of self-imploded on their own storyline. So in the end, the storyline they went with is pretty disconnected. You know, you have characters that are non-existent or just lack total agency and purpose within the new storyline. Marguerite Maida is a perfect example. In the first game, she plays an integral role in the world building of Subnautica. Finding the old Degasi bases are major focal points in the story as it's developing. And while Marguerite does sort of make a major splash and appearance in Below Zero at the start, she really doesn't do much. And by the end of the game, you sort of come back to her saying like, hey, what are you gonna do anything? And she just kind of sits around and does nothing. No payoff for this character being in this game. No payoff at all. Now, Subnautica 1 is a fantastic example of the benefits of early access. And then Subnautica Below Zero is more of the negative side. And now we've got Subnautica 2 hitting early access. And it's pretty early on, and it's not finished at all. And you can only hope for the best. And that comes into the point of one of my points is, when do you want to jump into this game? Does it bother you if they totally change everything and it's not at all what you played now? Or is it cool for you to be a part of its ongoing development, even if a change they make isn't one you want? It's a pretty gray area, this stuff. And I think it's very interesting, don't get me wrong. But in terms of like paying for a product that you want to play and that should stay that way, like there's no, games just keep changing now. There's no like safety net of like, this is how the game plays. No, there's always going to be an update. It's always going to be evolving for better or for worse. You're just part of that ride. You know, that's one of the things I find very interesting, but also kind of weird with early access. But that downside of Below Zero, that's just one example of the many successes we have through early access. And I think another big part of why I think early access is great is that there's so many creative and unique ideas for video games that don't get made currently because the industry just doesn't want them to be made. But early access gives us a voice to say, hell yeah, I want to play that. So you get games like Kerbal Space Program, Pal World, Hades, Valheim, Project Zomboid, Subnautica, Lethal Company. Baldur's Gate 3 is early access. These are amazing games, and none of them, I don't think barely any, would have succeeded without starting as an early access game. There's no way you're getting an abiotic factor from a major publisher today if it wasn't for early access, and you can't help but love it. And I think it'd be foolish to not say that this hasn't shifted the games industry in perspective massively, what early access is doing. For better and for worse. Better as in a developer actually has a chance to release something they feel so strongly about, that they love whatever they're making. They can release it even not finished, even in its earliest state. If the vision is there, people will see it, word of mouth will spread, and that game will have a chance to develop into what the developer wants it to be. That's just amazing to see. You want some downsides? Look at Marathon. Just look at Marathon. At launch, for all intents and purposes, this is an early access game, AAA, and there's no early access in its title, description, or anything, but it is developed surely like it was an early access game. They even told reviewers to hold the phone, don't review it yet. It's not done yet. What? Let that really sink in. How little is available to play besides, like, I guess the store. It was priced at $40. That is the price of Rayman Legends Retold. You're getting 2 games, by the way, in that one. It's I can't believe it. Maybe I'm being too hard on Marathon. I am an old Bungie fan. To say they missed the mark with Marathon would be like a massive understatement. Even with the trailers, people were worried. The player perception, the population, the reception of this game in general has been so wholly negative. It's hard to believe that Bungie really put all of their eggs in one basket with Marathon. You know, Bungie were certain that this game was going to be a success, that Marathon would blow everyone away. That's the disconnect from reality is crazy. This is the game that kills Destiny, right? Marathon of all things. You know, maybe Bungie, you could have not launched Marathon like it was a indie, no-budget early access game with a greedy store, and instead launched it with, you know, the millions and millions of dollars of budget that you had and spent, and, you know, launched it like a good, actual, worthwhile product. Just food for thought. Wow, that was very negative. Poor Marathon. Well, I mean, what about High Guard? Same kind of story, right? A lot of money behind it, too, but just nothing really there. Another what is like an early access launch. There's just like barely anything to play. We got stuff on the way. I mean, yeah, you could say just live service, but I mean, is there a difference in this case where the game launches with nothing and it just pretends not to be early access? That's what I'm talking about. That's one of the downsides we have here, is that the bar for a game release is pretty low in terms of content now. Like, you could really have nothing and launch. I mean, reception might be negative, but the fact that you are able to even release a High Guard or a Marathon in the state that they're in is baffling. And that's kind of part of the downsides with early access, like I've said. You know, you have games with no intention of being finished. You have games where they're just not good. You know, they're awful. A lie, smoke and mirrors, you know, the dust settles and you realize this game is a nothing burger. There's nothing here. There never was a plan to even make a game. This is just a quick money grab. Yes, we have all of those problems too. But that, I just want to say, that is a side effect of this early access rise, is you get developers just wanting to double dip, I guess, or just be as greedy as humanly possible. Whatever. It's whatever because it's worth it for the games that we have played that wouldn't have made it otherwise, that are huge successes. Like, look at Lethal Company. That game cannot exist 10 years ago, but it can exist now, baby, and it's a huge success. That's the power of early access. We get to show what we actually enjoy when you release your playable teaser or whatever you've got available, whatever you can pull off, and people are going to check it out and see if it's actually good. You have a chance. And there's always going to be that story of a failure or a game that just never gets there. I mean, look at Project Zomboid. People love it, but that is, I think, the longest game in early access to date. That is a beefer of a timeline. And I'm not familiar with this series, but I know 7 Days to Die had a very, very long lifespan in early access, and it had its own woes of playable builds and changes to the landscape of the game, and how it works, its design values, how the game plays. And you could see with the reviews, some people really don't like how 7 Days to Die has evolved in its development history. And like I said at the start, like, that is one of the caveats, problems you will have to accept, is that early access, even more so than normal games, are just constantly evolving for better or for worse until they hit that fabled 1.0 update. I follow Fields of Mystria, a wonderful Stardew Valley Harvest Moon farming game, and it is closing in on its 1.0 release, and I could not be happier for the developers. And I only heard about that game through early access. I was willing to give it a shot through early access, and it's a beautiful little ecosystem we have here. This is another part of early access I think a lot of us hate, or we should hate, right? Don't want to go into that because it's just such a negative topic, but my God, really, early access 5 days a week? Can that just go away? Go away. I don't like you. But it's worth it to put up for that crap because you do it for the indies, the underdogs. And it's just a wonderful thing to have more games to play, more inspiring games that are there to be a video game first. That's what I love seeing. So whether it's Hades 2 or Subnautica 2, or it's the likes of Celico or Fields of Mystria, unique and clever ideas get to flourish here. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, is that creativity thrives in early access, and it's here to stay. So with that, that's just about it. Until next time.